of the Foundation on Patient Safety, also founder and CEO of the Masimo, co-inventor of the modern oximetry, measurement of pulse by oximetry, also president of the Council, Science and Technology Advising Council, co-leader also from the work group on patient safety, also member of multiple advising councils and ethics councils. It is a huge honor for us having him present to speak about artificial intelligence and patient safety. I will invite him to speak for 20 minutes, if you wish. Thank you so much. Good morning.
Hello. I want to take this opportunity to first start by thanking Jeremy Hunt, Minister of Health at the time, for starting the Ministerial Summit on Patient Safety. I want to thank Minister of Health Aguilera from Chile, inviting us here for the 6th summit. And I want to thank Dr. Neelam Dhingra of the WHO, who has pushed the patient safety movement so much worldwide. Before I begin with AI, which is really for the non-engineers, it's just pattern recognition and pattern generation. That's all. It sounds much more than it really is, but it can be very, very helpful. I want to share a story with you. 12 years ago in April, a 13-year-old boy, Rory Staunton, died of sepsis. Or I think he really died of failure to recognize sepsis. He fell in the gym, opened his arm a bit, like we all do, and went home and started feeling sick, nausea, started throwing up, complained about a leg ache. He was taken to his primary physician, and despite his size, he had a very high heart rate, over 130, 140. He was sent home, the physician believing most likely it's a stomach flu. It got so bad, the pain got so bad, in the middle of the night, the parents took him to the emergency department. They drew his blood, and he had a very high white blood cell count. They still sent him home for potentially stomach virus. Well, he died. And the failure for the healthcare system to recognize high heart rate, high white blood cell count could be sepsis is the reason I believe he died. Had that been recognized, he could have been treated, and he would be a 25-year-old today. So my topic is AI and use of AI to help diagnose. And I like to start off by saying there's a tyranny of now versus the brilliance of historical data informing clinical decision. So often we see clinicians walk in a room, they see the stats, they make decisions, they walk out. People are not good at keeping track of historical data. The wars in Ukraine and Palestine are good examples of that. But computers are. AI can aid in reviewing not only historical data, but immediate data to inform clinical decisions. With assistance from AI, the errors of omission hopefully can be a thing of a past. And the Six Sigma clinician can be norm. We all wish when we were ill, when we were sick, when we need healthcare, we are with the most gifted doctors and nurses. But by definition, we're going to be with the normal. That's how the world works. The Six Sigma, 1 out of a million, is far to the right. So how do we aid everyone to predict and find solutions before they are too late? It can be done with AI, which is a very good form of pattern recognition, which is really complicated patterns is not well addressed or thought of by most clinicians, but computers can help in doing that. So normally we have problems with medical errors, but the problems will only get worse because of shortage of clinicians. By 2025, there is shortage of 450,000 nurses. Worldwide by 2030, 10 million. And today, post-COVID, many nurses in the hospitals are fresh nurses. Many of the experienced nurses and doctors have left. And these new nurses and doctors are going to fail to recognize patterns that predecessors of theirs did. So you can apply AI to improve life. Mainly, I want to talk about predictive and early diagnostics. So here's the Masimo way. Here's how we brought in AI. Back in 2010 is when we first introduced this technology. And I know AI has become very popular today, but this is something we've been working on for decades. But here's how we did it. We have all of the advanced signal processing, taking data from photoplethysmographic waveform, PPG, ECG, electrocardiograph, EEG, from the brain activity, audio, video in the room. And we do feature extraction. We feed the parameters like oxygen saturation, hemoglobin, AFib data into the Masimo AI model, machine learning language. And out of that, we could get Halo, but we don't stop there. We go back to the EMR data. We extract data from the labs, from the therapeutic devices, like anesthesia machine, infusion pump. We take the data from imaging. Even the system is set up to take data from genomics, which is becoming far less expensive. If you remember, the first human genome cost over $1 billion. Today, you can get a full DNA sequence for under $1,000. This will become standard. And even the phenotype. And we can take that all into this AI model, look for patterns personalized for that individual by also knowing their baseline when they're healthy from devices like the one I'm wearing right now. They can feed that information into our AI model. Not everybody has 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit temperature. Not everyone's got a 60 beat per minute pulse rate. We're all unique. And if we take that baseline data when we're healthy and use it when we're sick through these AI models, we can detect problems before they're too late. Now, we have developed many Halo algorithms. We call our AI systems Halo. Halo is the generic system that looks for problems and helps clinicians predict problems before it's too late. We have a Halo built for sepsis, one for opioid overdose, and even one for activity, initially looking at hand hygiene and warning before the clinician touches the individual if they've touched something before they clean their hands. But it can eventually even look at real-time administration of care, surgery, medication delivery. So I want to show you first the Halo Ion. Approximately 50 hospitals are using this today. And take a look at on the, I guess, the left side, you can see the parameters coming in. And they feed along with the EMR data to a number that we call the Halo score, 67. At the bottom of the screen, you see in green, yellow, and red, the pattern over time of the Halo score for this individual. The higher the score, the more in danger this patient is. So at 67, it's getting red, it's getting hot. And it even, if you look up, you see the bubbles that are under SpO2, the biggest one, beats per minute pulse rate, the smaller one, PI, and then even hemoglobin, the red one. So it quickly tells you these are the parameters the Halo score is bothered by, so that it can alert the clinician to what to pay attention to. So as Halo is being used, clinicians are seeing the value of it because it is a real-time score of how the patient's doing that can be understood by anyone, a brand new nurse, a brand new doctor in the hospital, that the high score is dangerous, low score is not. Now, these will also lead eventually to decision support of telling you even what the hospital protocol is for these types of scores. But here's a quote from Dr. Goodhart at Cambridge. I'm basically saying the Halo score is tailored to our unit's patient cohort and each patient's personalized baseline data profile. The Halo score alerts staff in a way that simply can't be achieved by the use of isolated, aggregated early warning scores alone. Now, Halo sepsis, which is, by the way, in a limited market release stage and will hopefully soon be available in full market release. It's a similar technology, but it's looking at now a broader set of data like lactate, white blood cell count, respiration rate, and using expert systems to bring those in, looking for patterns that are dangerous, and in real time gives you a score. Now, this is an actual patient in the ICU. You notice how the x-axis is time in days, the y-axis is the Halo score. Notice how the patient, unlike the story I gave of Rory Staunton that came in with sepsis to the hospital, this patient developed sepsis in the hospital. You see how the score went high, and then they actually began treatment based on the score for this individual. And notice how the treatment helped bring down the Halo sepsis score. And the patient was eventually safely discharged. I've looked at data on sepsis at places like UCSF, where nobody except very elderly died of sepsis because it was detected early enough and it was taken care of before it was too late. This is just another quote about how effective sepsis index has been, or Halo sepsis has been in this particular hospital during the limited market release. But you can look at the sensitivity, 93%, and specificity, which is the false rate of detecting a sepsis problem, which is not bad. It's meeting about 18% of the time it is falsely detecting sepsis, but 82% it is not. And an F1 score. This is important statistically because some of the things that are rare, you may have a high likelihood of detecting or failing to detect, but the F1 tells you truly how good the product is in detecting a problem and not falsely alarming. Another area where people die often is opioids. In the hospital, somewhere between 5,000 to 50,000 people die of opioid overdose that was there to reduce their pain. But in between nurses visiting them, they're found dead in bed. In my country, 117,000 people died of opioid overdose last year at home, About 20,000 from prescription opioids. This is the first and only FDA-approved product that can actually detect opioid-induced respiratory depression. And look at the sensitivity and specificity. The benchmark, this is clinicians looking at the data in post, unfortunately, mortem, and you can see the sensitivity was 99% and specificity of 80. Our AI-based algorithm, Halo, had 100% sensitivity at level 1, which is there to alert the patient at home or in the hospital, the patient on the general floor. And many times these people wake up from opioid-induced respiratory depression and don't even need naloxone for revival. Level 2 is when it goes to either clinicians or family members. And at home, we even have a system, level 3, which sends the alarm to the nearest ambulance with their location to come rescue them. So you can see how effective this is going to be in reducing this unnecessary related death due to opioid. And another area we're looking at, and this is in a pre-market release status, is halo activity. So with just 2 cameras in each room, we can identify each individual coming in and seeing if they wash their hand before they touch the patient. And by the way, if in the time they wash their hand and they drop something and they go to pick it up, it'll highlight them as red again until they go back and wash their hand. And will not let the individual get near the patient without washing their hand. So I like to think, if a lot of people say data is king, but action out of kindness is godly. I want to thank you all for coming here. You all come with action. You all come with empathy, whether you've lost someone yourself to patient safety problems, or as clinicians, you come here to make sure it doesn't happen again to more patients. I hope we will never stop all coming together to deal with medical errors until there is no more medical errors. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Bueno, lo invitamos a sentarse y
Well,
le
we
damos.
invite you to take a seat and we thank you. And I wanted to start by saying that here in Chile, we have just approved a law.
Acabamos de aprobar.
Yeah, we
una ley
just approved a law, interoperability of clinical records, that allows for information from the clinical charts, the clinical records, to move from one provider to another one, from the artificial intelligence vision. What is the value it has? Having access in real time to the historical data of a patient, independent, regardless of the health provider where they went to.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. It is essential to have interoperability of electronic health record data. It is essential that every medical product, whether they're patient monitors or anesthesia machines, share their data. Because if we don't all share our data, this is the patient's data. If we don't share it, you cannot bring in algorithms like AI to look at these patterns and detect problems before it's too late. Too often in the past, companies like mine hoarded their data in hopes to monetize the data. But that type of attitude had kept these AI-based algorithms from becoming real. About 12 years ago, we started the Patient Safety Movement Foundation. And one of the goals we had is to encourage medical technology companies to share their data. I'm happy to report over 90 companies made the pledge to share their data. So today, the ecosystem is there for anyone to bring tools like AI and use the data coming from the EHR, coming from patient monitors, anesthesia machine, infusion pumps, etc., to help clinicians know the problems before they're too late.
Muy interesante, muy interesante.
Very interesting, extremely interesting, and following that very same line, ethical challenges of artificial intelligence. And how can the regulators, to contribute to develop artificial intelligence for the safety patients and having a better treatment? And likewise, to achieve balance, a balance between due transparency of algorithms, explicability of them. I mean, how have you faced that challenge?
Yes, well, AI is an incredible tool, just like atomic nuclear energy. It could be used for good or it could be used for bad. It is essential that regulators around the world put some guidelines and some guardrails on AI. Some of the most dangerous things about AI is actually how governments might use it to recognize people's pattern that might be unfriendly. And I worry about that sometimes. But sometimes it's also due to AI learning from bad data, because it's all about pattern recognition. And if you feed it bad data, it will have bad results. So in the medical world, we have to be very careful not to let AIs on their own become learning machines, but instead use expert systems to understand what patterns to look for and use gold data with known answers to teach these AI machines how to predict problems. You can't just let it go. If you do, you could have shadow problems, you could have false information, and really reduce the value of AI. I'm a member of PCAS, President's Council, as you mentioned. And in fact, we're examining government's role in AI, and soon we'll be publishing a report on how to guardrail against abuse, but also to tell people the wonderful things that could come out of AI, like in medical diagnosis is one example of that.
Ujú. Muy interesante. En otra área
Wow,
donde
very interesting. Another area where we have evolved, moved forward here is neurotechnology and the regulation of technology to the service of the patient. When speaking about medical devices and artificial intelligence, do you have any experience on more invasive technology when thinking about people? I mean, what are the results you have? What are the expectations you have regarding the benefits this might bring in the management of in-house management of an illness or remote control with physicians? Have you had any experience on telemedicine, for instance, with artificial intelligence?
Yes, I think, first of all, we do have experience with AI and telemedicine. We are creating a whole slew of product. Masimo is for helping people at home recognize problems on their own and only going to see a physician or a hospital when they really need to, instead of all of the false visits to the ER, ED departments, all of the false visits to physicians that are already overburdened with too many patients. So yes, I see a huge role. I mean, think about a simple example, imaging, whether it's CAT scan, MRI. It's even difficult for a trained physician to catch things. That's an area where AI can catch things better than humans can. So imagine taking some of those technologies, some of those patterns at home, where we're not just there with a thermometer, we're there with a whole slew of products that at home with AI can help a layperson know what to do next. And then they could even get telehealth, telemonitoring without even leaving their home and letting physicians see what is being seen to help them diagnose the problem. Now, you mentioned invasive issues, how it could help, how it could hurt. I truly believe there is responsibility of regulators to make sure, first of all, privacy is not overlooked. Data is not being used where it's not supposed to be used. AI is being used only for the positive and not for the negative. So those things, it's not easy. It's going to take a collective world to do it together, because if one nation plays by the rule and another nation doesn't play by the rule, you'll have problems. We all have to play by the same rules. But I really see AI as a wonderful tool that can serve humanity and not hurt us.
Muchas gracias. Bueno, en honor al tiempo,
Thank
nos
you so much.